He looked like any quiet rancher, worn boots, calloused hands, the kind of man who spoke only when it mattered. But the moment Silas Ward saw his maid limping across the kitchen that morning, everything changed. The ranch house sat low in the valley, built by Silas himself 15 years ago, beam by beam, nail by nail. He believed in hard work, fair pay, and keeping your word. That's why, when Mercy Whitmore showed up 3 months back, eyes hollow, voice barely above a whisper, he didn't ask questions. She needed work. He needed help. Done, she kept to herself. Did her job well, and Silas respected that. In his world, silence usually meant someone had seen too much to talk lightly. But today was different. He'd just come in from checking the cattle when he saw her through the kitchen window, moving like every step hurt, her right leg dragged. She gripped the table to steady herself, jaw clenched tight against the pain she was trying to hide. Silas froze. This wasn't new. He'd noticed little things before. The way she winced reaching for a shelf, how she'd sit too still, like moving might break her. But this was worse. He pushed through the door. The hinges groaned like they always did. Mercy straightened instantly, forcing calm into her shoulders. "Morning, Mr. Ward. Coffee's almost ready." Her voice was light. Too light, like someone pretending they're fine while bleeding inside. He took the cup she offered. Her fingers trembled, cold. And when his hand brushed hers, she flinched, not from surprise, from fear. That's when he knew. Something, or someone, was hurting her. "Mercy," he said softly. She froze, mid-wipe on a spotless counter. "You're hurt." Silence, thick, heavy. Outside, a meadowlark sang like the world wasn't falling apart in this kitchen. Then she turned, and Silas saw it. A split lip, a fading bruise along her cheekbone, hair pulled forward like a shield. But her eyes, they told the real story, empty, resigned, like she'd stopped hoping for help long ago. "I fell," she said quickly. "Tripped on the stairs last night." Silas set his cup down slow. "There are no stairs in your cabin, Mercy." Her face went white. He'd built that cabin himself. One room, one step at the door. No stairs. No chance of tripping. The lie hung between them, thin, brittle, already crumbling. She twisted her apron, eyes down. For a heartbeat, he thought she might finally tell the truth. Instead, she lifted her chin. "I should get back to work." And walked away. Careful, measured, like pain was just part of her routine. That's when Silas made his choice. Whoever was doing this, they didn't know who they were dealing with. Because Silas Ward didn't just believe in hard work. He believed in protecting what was his. And Mercy? She worked for him, lived on his land. That made her his to protect. That afternoon, for the first time in his life, Silas watched his own property like it was enemy territory. He leaned against the barn, pretending to fix a harness, eyes locked on the path from town. And just as the sun dipped low, a rider appeared on the horizon. Even from 50 yards away, Silas knew that swagger. Deputy Vernon Briggs. The man rode like the land bowed to him, shoulders slouched, badge glinting like a warning. Silas had never trusted him. Briggs wasn't a peacekeeper. He was a predator in a tin star, enjoying power more than justice, and everyone in town knew it. They just never said it out loud, but now Silas was watching. Briggs tied his horse to the post outside Mercy's cabin. His post meant for guests, not threats. Then he glanced around like a thief, knocked hard on her door, and pushed inside before she could even answer. Silas's fists clenched. He couldn't hear the words from the barn, but he didn't need to. Mercy stepped back like she'd been struck. The door shut. And for 20 long minutes, Silas paced the dirt, jaw locked so tight it ached. When Briggs finally came out, he adjusted his gun belt with a smirk, like he'd collected what was owed, whistling as he rode off like the whole thing was a joke. Mercy stood in the doorway after he left, one hand braced against the frame just to stay upright. Then she disappeared inside. That's when it hit Silas. This wasn't random, it wasn't bad luck. It was him. The next morning, the sky hung low and gray, like the valley itself was holding its breath. Mercy was in the kitchen, moving like glass about to shatter, hair pulled forward to hide fresh bruises on her neck. Silas's stomach turned to stone. "Mercy," he said, voice low but firm. I need the truth. She froze, coffee pot trembling in her hands. I saw him yesterday. At your cabin. Her breath hitched. I don't know what you mean. You do. Silas leaned forward, not angry, just certain. How long has he been doing this? That's when the dam broke. Tears welled. Her voice cracked like dry timber. He said if I told anyone, I'd disappear. Said there are mines in these mountains where no one would ever find me. She looked at him. Really looked. He said he'd done it before. Silas went still. Not shocked. Not surprised, just cold. Because now he understood. This wasn't just abuse, it was murder waiting to happen. Why didn't you leave? He asked. She gave a broken laugh. With what? Where? He told everyone I was his. No one would hire me. No one would help. Then softer. You were the only one who even gave me a chance. Silas stood. Slow. Deliberate. He's not going to hurt you again. Mr. Ward, please. He'll kill you. Or frame you. These men protect each other. But Silas was already at the door. He turned back just once. There's something you should know about me, Mercy. I don't talk much, but I'm real good at making sure the right thing gets done. And with that, he stepped into the gray morning, not walking toward town, walking toward justice. One way, or another, and one way or another, this ended today. Cedar Falls sat in a dusty bowl between two hills, buildings weathered, hope worn thin. Silas walked down the center of Main Street like a storm rolling in. Slow. Certain. People noticed. They always did. Silas Ward only came to town when it mattered, and today, it mattered more than ever. He found Deputy Briggs exactly where he knew he'd be. Leaning against the saloon post, badge catching the weak sun, bragging loud about running some troublemaker out of town. Classic Briggs. Needed an audience to feel big. Silas stopped 10 feet away, waited. Briggs finally looked up, and froze. Something in Silas's eyes made the deputy's hand drift toward his gun. Well, Briggs sneered, voice loud for the crowd already gathering. The hermit rancher finally comes to visit. What do you want, Ward? I'm here about Mercy Whitmore. The name hit like a hammer. Briggs's face flickered, surprise, panic, then a cruel smirk. Don't know who that is. I think you do. Silas stepped closer. I think you know her real well. The street went quiet. Shopkeepers paused. Wives pulled kids closer. Everyone had lived under Briggs's shadow, too scared to speak. Until now. You calling me a liar, Ward? Briggs snarled, hand now resting on his gun. Say it plain. Silas turned to the crowd. I'm saying this man uses his badge to hurt people who can't fight back. That he's been terrorizing a woman who works for me? Gasps. Whispered curses. Briggs's face turned purple. You got proof? Silas reached into his vest and pulled out a folded paper. It was blank, just a page from his desk. But Briggs didn't know that. His eyes locked onto it like it was a death warrant. See, Silas said, unfolding it slow. Secrets have a way of coming out, right when you think you're safe. That's when Briggs drew. Gun flashed up, but Silas was already moving. 15 years of ranch life made him fast. He dove left as the shot cracked past his ear, splintering wood behind him. The crowd scattered. Silas rolled, charged, and slammed into Briggs like a bull. They crashed into the saloon wall, glass rattling, dust flying. Briggs fumbled for a second shot, but Silas twisted his wrist with iron hands. The gun clattered to the boardwalk and stopped at the boots of Marshal Kane. The sheriff stood there, older, weary, but sharp-eyed. Enough! He barked, gun drawn but low. Both of you, back off. Silas raised his hands, breathing hard. Briggs slumped, cradling his wrist. He attacked me! Arrest him! But Kane wasn't looking at Briggs. He was watching the crowd. And the crowd? They were done staying silent. First, Mrs. Henderson, the boarding house owner, stepped forward, voice shaking but firm. Marshal, there's things you need to know about your deputy. Then the blacksmith. He threatened my daughter when she said no. The grocer. Money vanished after he searched my shop. One voice, then another, then a dozen. Each story chipped away at Briggs's power, until there was nothing left but the truth. Kane turned to him, disgust in his eyes. Vernon, he said quietly, you better tell me about Mercy Whitmore. I don't know any, Briggs started. Don't, Marshal Kane cut in, voice like steel. Don't lie to me. Not anymore. Silas stepped forward, hands open. Marshal, there's a young woman on my ranch who's been living in fear for months. Bruises on her neck. Cuts she hides. All because of him. Kane studied Silas. Everyone knew his name. A man who spoke only when it mattered. If he was speaking now, it was true. Briggs sputtered. You can't believe them over a sworn officer. That's when Silas reached into his pocket and pulled out a torn scrap of fabric, the same rough weave as Briggs's shirt, the same tear near the sleeve. He'd found it outside Mercy's cabin that morning, ripped off during one of Briggs's visits. Kane looked at the cloth, at Briggs's shirt, at Silas, then quiet and final, Vernon Briggs. You're under arrest. The jail door clanged shut, a sound that echoed through Cedar Falls like thunder after a drought. Later, outside the jail, Kane turned to Silas. Bring Mercy in tomorrow. She'll need to give her statement. Silas nodded. She'll be there. Kane hesitated. Thank you, Ward. I should have seen it sooner. We all should have, Silas said. But it's over now. The ride home was quiet. For the first time in months, the wind didn't feel heavy. He found Mercy on her cabin porch, staring at the mountains like she'd forgotten they were there. When she saw him, she stood, slow, braced for bad news. It's done, Silas said, dismounting. Briggs is in jail. He won't hurt you again. Her legs gave out. She sank onto the steps, and then the tears came. Not the silent, swallowed kind. These were relief. The kind that washes away fear. I thought he'd always win, she whispered. You thought wrong, Silas said gently. Sometimes it just takes one person to say enough. They sat as the sun dipped behind the peaks, painting the sky in gold and fire. The ranch breathed again, lighter, freer. What happens now? She asked. Now you heal, he said. Now you remember what safety feels like. And if you want to stay, there's always work here for honest hands. She looked at him, eyes glistening. What if people ask what happened? Let them ask, Silas said. Truth spreads faster than lies, once someone finally tells it. Above them, the first stars blinked awake, and Mercy smiled. Small, shaky, but real. For Silas, a man who never needed words, that smile was worth every risk. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stand up when no one else will. And sometimes, a quiet rancher's voice is all it takes to bring justice home. If you enjoyed this story, click the video on your screen now to watch another unforgettable tale where honor and courage collide in ways you never expected. Don't forget to subscribe and consider a super chat to help us keep bringing you more stories like these. Your support means everything to